Get ready for a beautiful journey. It's Friends Day Fridays on Tea Time with Afternoon Social. We're steeping tales of fun stuff from adventure stories to tips and advice, one cup at a time. So grab your favorite tea, snuggle into your coziest nook, and join our terrific party. Good afternoon and welcome back to Tea Time with Afternoon Social. I'm Teresa Lauterbach, your host, and today is Friends Day Fridays, and our guest again is Kylee Robinson. We had a great talk yesterday, so if you didn't see the video, go back and check out Triumphant Thursdays from yesterday. But Kylee is a CEO and founder of Compass Living and a coach, an author, wife, and a mom, a travel aficionado, and an efficiency enthusiast. And just as like we heard yesterday, she's got a lot of things on her plate because we're living an enjoyable, exciting life. And with that, today she's going to share with us some tips and advice on relationships and boundaries and how that helps her in her business and her personal life, and how it could help you and our audience as well with your personal life, and maybe you're even starting a new business. So I'm going to turn it over to Kylee. Hi, Kylee. How are you today?
Hey, thanks for having me back, Teresa.
Hey, so I'm going to let you just kind of roll with it about some of the things that maybe you've learned and you want to share with our audience about relationships and your boundaries. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kylee.
Sure. Yeah. I think probably the cusp I want to, the hill I want to die on here is setting expectations. I think setting expectations and self-awareness. I think when it comes to our relationships, we can only do so well as we know ourselves, and understanding, how I'm coming across and whether it's the tone of your voice or the language that you choose, and then how things affect you and therefore how you interact with other people. So I think the first thing in any relationship is learning more about yourself. So whether that's, are you extroverted or introverted? Are there personality tests you could dive into? What part do you play in your marriage? Where are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? Or in your household? What things are important to you and what's not? What are your personal values? And are you living out of those? Because if you're not living out of your personal values, you'll experience more angst in your life, and then that can put a damper on the relationships that you've got around you. So I think the very first thing is self-awareness, and then you can learn how to interact with those people around you appropriately, and as I said, set those expectations. So when I say set expectations, so for example, I teach on goal setting. That's something that I focus on with people. The problem is if we set a goal and we're like, hey, I'm going to hit this hard. It's going to take a whole lot of extra time from me. You can go do that. That's fine. But if you've got other people living in your house, they need to be on board with that. They need to understand why you're going after that. I mean, let's just say you're a mom of 4 kids and you've got a husband and you're like, hey, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to need 6 months to get it off the ground and it's going to take all this time away, but you don't inform anybody of that. Some people are going to be pretty upset with you when mom's not around for their every need. So it's not that that's a bad thing or that you shouldn't do that, but just communicate with the people around you, to your spouse. Hey, this is what I'm wanting to do. Are you on board? Here's what it's going to do for us as a couple, for us as a family. Get the kids on board. Hey, you get to check in with me anytime that you want. Make sure I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And when 6 months is up, here's what it's going to do for us. Just that basic communication of setting that expectation can change how you interact with anybody, what people do with you. And when you set an expectation, even if someone forgets the expectation you set, you get to go back and point to that. Hey, remember when we had this conversation and I said, here's what you can expect from me, here's what I need to expect from you, when we covered all that information? And the only thing someone goes is, oh yeah, my bad. Like, now you've revisited it. They've acknowledged that, hey, we already communicated on this. Now where do we go from here?
Right. So let's part of, like you said, you mentioned something about self-awareness and setting those boundaries. So actually, first step is sitting down with yourself and talking to yourself, because that way you're more clear with your family, correct?
Yeah, Yeah. Yeah, you've got to know who you are, and you teach people how to treat you. So whatever you tolerate, you're going to get more of that. If you're going to tolerate people walking all over you or assuming that you say yes to everything, well, you let them do those things. So you really don't get to be upset about it unless you're going to set that boundary. And that's really hard because a lot of, we're adults. It's not like I'm talking to 17-year-olds who are just learning this and going out into the world. You probably have some people around you that have certain expectations of you, who think certain ways about you. It's really hard if you're listening to this going, oh, I realize I need a boundary here. That's going to be painful to set. Someone's going to be upset. Someone's going to be irritated with me if I put a boundary on that when I haven't in the past. So, it's really easy to say, oh, boundaries. Yeah, you need to set them. You need to have clear boundaries. Blah, blah, blah. Like, that's great, but it's not going to be easy. So I do recommend what are some little boundaries you can set? Can you not answer the phone to that friend who always calls you in a crisis?
Right.
Just maybe you wait 10 minutes. Maybe you wait 2 hours. Maybe you text them and say, hey, now's not a good time. What is just some of these little things that you can do to just kind of make those adjustments to start setting boundaries? And a boundary is not a wall. It's not a brick wall. Boundaries are fences with gates. And it's your job to open and close the gates.
Right.
So we're not blocking people out. We're not saying no to everything just because you said yes to everything for so long in your life. It's just going, no, for this season, I'm going to say yes to this and no to this. I'm going to open this gate and close this gate. And you're going to have different boundaries with every important person in your life as well.
And one thing that's come to my mind is about change. You're willing to change yourself, but trying to change others to your change. That could be the impossible situation. Right?
Oh, yeah. I coach CIA. You got control, influence, and accept. We only have control in this life over a handful of things. It's not very many. Like how I spend my time, where I put my focus and activities, what I do with me. That's it. My attitude. Like those are really the only 3 things that I have control over. And then when it comes to people, we have influence over them. I can influence my son to eat everything on his plate, but there's no controlling that.
No.
Like I have to be a real good salesperson to make sure that happens sometimes. And then there's accept. The things you just have to accept. They are what they are.
Right.
The weather, the traffic. This is how it's going to be. And so I find when we focus on that, when you control, influence, accept, and when something comes at you and you can put it in one of those boxes, it gives you so much more freedom to go, okay, I literally can't stress about this because I have no control whatsoever over it. So what am I going to do about that now? What am I going to do with me that I do have control over?
And when you say about the accept, you can control, like you said, not answering a phone call, but that friend may get really angry, and you may have to accept that the friend is no longer a friend.
Yeah.
And we have to make those hard choices for our boundaries.
Yeah. And there's lots of different kinds of friends. I like to put it kind of into 2 categories in this example here. You've got one-way friendships and you've got two-way friendships. There are one-way friendships where you give and give and give and give to that person, and they don't reciprocate.
Right.
And on occasion, that's okay. Sometimes you feel called to something. I feel that it's important for this person. As long as it's still healthy for you, that can be okay on occasion. As long as it is not draining you of everything, as long as it's not taking away from what you should be doing in other areas or with other relationships, as long as it's not hurting your mental capacity, your mental state, all of those things. If all of those things are in check and you feel like this person, like you can do some good for this person, then fine. It happens sometimes. And then you have these two-way friendships where it's reciprocated. Where when you ask them about their life, they also turn around and ask you about yours. When you're helping somebody, they are also offering to help you. And that's, you play tennis, you go back and forth. And those are the healthiest kind. And the other thing I'll add to this is you can't have just one friend. You can't have that in the same way that person's coming to you and maybe you're not answering the phone this time because they always call you in a crisis. You don't want to be that person either. If your person can't get on the phone with you when you need them, you better have some other people around you. It's not fair to that person to put all your eggs in one basket. It's
Right.
The same. It doesn't work. You are called to community. We need these relationships around us. It's just a matter of navigating them appropriately.
Right. And it makes it more difficult when they're family members.
100%. Absolutely. We have these expectations from childhood on certain people, and some families, I would argue that most families are not great with their boundaries in one way or another.
Right. Because they're the most comfortable with each other, and it's like, I'll do what I want when I want. and
I'll make demands, and all of it.
But I will open your gate whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and that's where we need to make those baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is the smallest boundary I can set on this family member?
Right.
Sometimes that just might be, we just need to not talk for a few days. Not because I'm angry or hurt or whatever. It's just, maybe you just need some space.
Right. Just take a little break and
those are things that don't even have to be communicated.
Right.
You don't have to say, okay, Mom, stop calling me. Like, I need a little bit of room for a few days. Just don't initiate the call. Just let the call go to voicemail for 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. Not out of spite or anger. Just, we need some breathing room.
Right. And that's, I think, the biggest key is make sure you get your breathing in, because what's the old adage when you're on the airplane, when the oxygen mask comes down, if you don't put it on first, you can't help anybody else.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So many people feel selfish for taking care of themselves, but if you don't take care of yourself, you can't do any good for anybody else.
No. And like we talked yesterday about all of your big goals and things that you accomplished, you couldn't do all that if you hadn't taken care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There would be no way you could challenge yourself to go to a foreign country for 4 weeks and try to maneuver this child you've never met.
Yeah.
If you weren't helping and take care of yourself, it wouldn't have.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, personally, I do better with exercise. If I don't exercise, that's when my back starts hurting. Gross. And it's like, oh, I haven't gone to the gym in a week. That's why I go there, is so that I don't have those aches and pains. But then also I'll notice I get very overwhelmed and more anxious, and just things that I should be able to handle aren't coming so easily. And if I take a pause and step back and go, why is this happening? Like, I'm getting enough sleep, I'm drinking enough water, my relationships are in good standing. It's because I'm not in the gym. For me, that's like my happy place, and that's where I get this release where I can properly handle relationships and do all of these things and juggle everything that I do. So that's like, I hate the term self-care personally, but that's, if I'm not taking care of myself in that way specifically, everything else starts to crumble. So I have to be selfish, if you will, to make sure I get that time so that everything else in my whole household functions. And so it's a matter of finding what is that for you so that you can thrive in these relationships and do all of your things.
Well, thank you. I think that's a good note to end on for today, and that's a great tip for everyone. So thank you again, Kylee, for being here on Wednesday, Fridays. And tomorrow she'll be back with us for Show and Tell Savage to tell us more about her coaching program. And she's got a freebie that she shares with everyone. And so come back tomorrow and we will find out more about Kylee and what her business is all about. So thank you again, Kylee, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Teresa.